I'm Laura Brandenburg from Bridging the Gap, and today we're going to talk about how to specify requirements for COTS and SaaS projects. COTS being commercial off the shelf and SaaS being software as a service. And the vast majority of projects these days are delivered using some elements of these pre-built solutions, and it can feel like, well, do we really need requirements? Do we really need business analysts? And I have see a lot of projects, and going through our blueprint program as well as through my work with my husband who implements Salesforce, and I can tell you that the projects that are successful still leverage business analysis capabilities and specific business analysis skills and techniques to make sure the requirements, the COTS requirements, are actually in place. Because many of these options are highly configurable and customizable, and we need to do the work of figuring out, even if we're going to use the solution as is, how it fits within our business process and how we get data into it. And so in this video, I'm going to walk you through what those solutions are, why we use them, and what kinds of requirements techniques are really important to pay attention to. And it's going to be a little bit of a longer video, most likely, because I want to walk you through these examples, give you some visuals so you can see what they are, as well as share some success stories from our program participants on how they've actually used these techniques on their projects doing COTS and SaaS type requirements work. So let me go ahead and share my slides. Now the first slide I want to bring, or just to kind of revisit these actual definitions, right, and make sure we're clear. COTS is commercial off the shelf, or a solution that's usually deployed internally. It's where you license a software or install a piece of software on either a centralized server within your organization, or maybe on each, on specific computers that employees are using. SaaS is software as a service, so that's in the cloud. You're not actually hosting it as an organization. The service provider is hosting it. You might still have quite a few customization and configuration options depending on the solution. So just to be really clear, the kinds of requirements you do from a process and functional requirements basis are very similar regardless of what kind of solution you're using. So you don't really have to worry too much about that from a functional perspective as a BA. So what are some examples of these types of systems? We've got SAP, Microsoft SharePoint, Salesforce.com is huge lately. We've seen a ton of people come through the Blueprint program, the Business Analyst Blueprint certification program, and work on Salesforce.com projects and go on to become experts in Salesforce business analysis. I'm going to share a couple of their stories. And then Archer is another one. We've got document management tools. We've got ServiceNow. I'm going to share an example of that. So just, all these types of tools are software as a service or COTS tools, and they all need requirements if you're going to implement them successfully as at your company. So one example I want to give you from my career where this didn't work, it actually was a project I came into after the fact as a business analyst, was a document management system, and they had implemented this document management system, just kind of put it in place, and the whole goal of the project was to reduce the amount of paper used and make the process more efficient. Well, the users at this other location hadn't been trained on how to use it, their workflow hadn't been well understood, so they were given a solution that they didn't think worked for them. And instead of printing a document once and then kind of handing it around the office, right, using their old workflow, they were actually printing it and uploading it multiple times at each step of the workflow. So it was more intensive, more labor intensive, and used more paper. So it was actually a negative return on investment. And that's what happens if you just put a tool in place and don't actually understand what your business process is or how to use that tool successfully within your organization. So let's just share the first technique that's really critically important, and that's a business process or a business process flow diagram. So you need to understand how the business works today. It might be using spreadsheets, it might be, a paper process, however it is. It might be using another system that you're migrating away from. You need to understand how that process works so that you can understand how it's going to work using your new system. And there tends to be a lot of flexibility, right, in how those solutions work. So you really need to understand what that process is, so you need to know, you can figure out what you need to implement. You also need to understand the constraints of the software so that sometimes it's actually easier to adjust or tweak the business process versus adjust and tweak the software. It gives you a more maintainable system with more longevity. So you might need to understand how the software works so that you can adjust the business process and your to-be process actually changes to work better with the software that you're implementing. So either way, you just need to understand what that business process is, and a process flow diagram like this one is really important, as well as a detailed process textual template. So I'll leave a link below for our free template on that you can use to articulate your business process. And we also have videos on that technique, as well as creating a process map like this one. So there's other videos here that you can check out as well. Now, as an example of this, so Manuel Nipitan was in QA work when he joined our Business Analyst Blueprint program, and he was specifically doing QA work using an application called ServiceNow. And so he took it upon himself as part of understanding the business process to really look for opportunities, opportunities to be more efficient. He also updated his email signature to have the job title of business analyst. So this works. This is why I wanted to share this story with you. It might be intuitive of how it works for you as a business analyst. It also can work if you are not yet in a business analyst role, because it will give you opportunities to understand the process, to ask questions about how the process works. And so to bring that business analysis mindset to whatever role you're in, because often these solutions do get deployed without business analysis. We see a lot of Salesforce administrators for this reason becoming somewhat de facto business analysts, right? Because they are actually, their role is to administrate the system, but in order to do that work and in order to meet the user needs, they have to start understanding the business process so they can make the little tweaks that they're able to make. So an admin role is a great way to progress in the business analysis. A QA role is a great way to progress in the business analysis. And you can do that starting by understanding and analyzing the business process. So again, if you haven't already, download that template. It'll help you get started with that technique. Now, another technique that's really important is use cases, or some way of analyzing the functional software requirements. So this is not required for like every feature. So you wouldn't analyze the login use case for your COTS tool, because most likely you are not going to be customizing that. And if you are, like, there's got to be a really specific business case for that. So you might want to push back on that one. But there's going to be features where there's maybe a lot of configuration options, or you do need to customize it to work within your organization's business model. And that's where the functional requirements, here we have a sample use case as well as a wireframe, are incredibly important. Now, an example of this was Jamie Moore, and she had a particularly challenging feature, and there were multiple ways it could be used or implemented using Salesforce. Like, there were different ways that it could happen. And so she wrote a use case to decide to show how different areas of functionality could actually be leveraged in Salesforce to accomplish the end user objectives. And she got this great feedback from a senior level stakeholder. I've never seen it done this way before, and it's absolutely fantastic, right? So wouldn't you like to receive that kind of feedback? So often we can feel like we're presenting tools that are new to our community, and that maybe that can be a little scary, like, oh, I don't know, nobody's asking me to like write a use case for this. But you can see the indecision and the uncertainty and the lack of clarity about what that feature is actually supposed to do. And there's tools in your toolbox that you can pull out to use in those scenarios. And a use case can be a great one if you're trying to figure out how a feature could work, or what you need to configure or customize and how that can work. So it gets really specific about how the user interacts with the system and what the system needs to do to support that business user. So again, if you do want to go back, I'll just show you that use case again, and that's probably a little bit hard to read, but we also have an absolutely free download for the use case template, where you can go ahead and have this template fully at your disposal to start using right away in your work as a business analyst. And again, that's another free download, and we'll leave a link for that below. Okay, so third element of COTS requirements is data modeling. And I would say, data modeling is always important. Data is everywhere these days. It's kind of a buzzword in a way, but really, as part of a COTS project, it might be one of the areas that you need to pay the most attention to, maybe the second to only the business process, right? Because what happens is often you are either migrating data from one system to another, maybe a legacy system to your COTS system, or maybe even spreadsheets to your COTS system, right? And you need to migrate that data. That's considered a one-time move. And then the other example would be if that COTS system is actually integrating with another system. And it could be your legacy system. It could be two COTS systems integrating together using an API. It could be any multiple number of things, but in that case, data is moving back and forth. And in both of these scenarios, understanding the data dictionaries of both the source system and the target system, so where the data is now and where it's going to, as well as how those data fields map together is really important, because often there's logic. Like one field might be, if your target system only allows 20 characters for company name and your source system allows 25 and people are often filling that in, it's going to get truncated, right? And you want to figure that out before you move data over and then people are saying the system is broken. It could be that there's actually fields that are broken apart in different ways or combined in different ways, or that are labeled the same thing but actually used differently by the business. That's where the business process layer comes in. So you really want to understand what that data is and how it has an impact, and how it's going to flow. And one of our participants, Stephanie Bellholm, she's also an ACBA, and she is now an independent contractor as a Salesforce business analyst. And she really learned to see how critical data modeling was as a tool that she could bring to her clients. And she says, like, as a contractor, my clients are paying me to bring my best, to bring tools. And it's really important that I can do that. And the Bridging the Gap program really helped her elevate her skill set. But particular to data modeling, she realized that, in past projects, she hadn't really gone into that level of detail. And because there's always project pressures, right? Just get it out there. And often this was a great way to have a bigger impact for her clients and to make those projects go more smoothly as well. All right, so one other final thing I want to leave you with is about just in general how business analysis skills can make you a more valued contributor on COTS projects. And the example here is Tammy Schlater. So Tammy was and is an expert in SAP. It's another system, so we talked about multiple different systems here, right? And she found that she was getting job offers that were very SAP, almost developer or administrator focused, because she was emphasizing her SAP skill set on her LinkedIn profile and her resume. And then when she would interview for a business analyst job, she would find a new job, she would find she would do great at those SAP questions, and she would fall short, or felt like she was falling short at those business analyst questions about how she would actually work with users and end users, and how she would actually make sure the requirements reflected the process that was needed, right? And when you're thinking about moving from one industry to another, which you may be just wanting to think about, well, where is my career going to go? Am I always going to be in this one industry with this one domain and have a lot of expertise, both in the technology and in the business? Probably not. Probably you'll switch that multiple times over your career, and that's going to give you a lot of opportunity to explore new opportunities. And in Tammy's case, she moved from the steel foundry industry to the pharmaceutical industry and earned a 20% salary increase as a result of being able to shift industries like that. And it was because she had learned the business analysis skill set, and even though she had I think it was 20 years of experience doing business analysis on SAP, it was the understanding and the grounding and the skills that we've just talked about that enabled her to move into a new job in a new industry. And she actually had a recruiter contact her based on the updates she made to her LinkedIn profile, both to emphasize her business analysis skill set and add her ACBA. So just another example of really how having a breadth of business analysis skills is super important, and it's really seen as valuable by your stakeholders as well and by your hiring managers. So there we have it, a really good detailed rundown of COTS requirements, the kinds of requirements that you need for these types of projects. Be thinking about your business process, your use cases and wireframes, your functional requirements. Definitely don't forget those data requirements. A lot of people overlook them. And, also that might seem like a lot to focus on, but realizing what's in it for you is a much more longevity in your career and much more transportability of your skill set. You're not you're not cut down or constrained by one area of expertise in either an area of software or an area of business domain expertise. You start to build a skill set that you can take with you anywhere. And that's what we want for you. Again, lots of resources that will further cover these concepts in other videos, as well as the free business process template and the free use case template. So go ahead and download those if you want to get started right away. And again, I'm Laura Brandenburg from Bridging the Gap. We build our profession one business analyst at a time, and success starts with you. Thanks for being here.